of the Bahamas.
COVID-19 has changed the global movement of people, impacted the way business is done, and brought to the surface a new health perspective for the global community. To bring you the latest on this pandemic and our country's response, tune into the morning edition at a new time, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., beginning Monday, March 16th on the ZNS Television Network.
The Ministry of Health is working to ensure the safety of the Bahamian people. Help us minimize the risk that coronavirus poses to citizens, residents, and visitors by following these 5 easy steps. Step 1. Wet your hands with clean water. Apply soap and lather for 20 seconds by rubbing them together. Include the top of your hands between your fingers.
The Bahamas today confirmed its first case of COVID-19 here in New Providence.
We will be confident and we will be vigorous in our national response.
As a people of faith, we need to trust God. We need to pray fervently.
Every government ministry, every agency in full preparedness mode as the Bahamas ups its game to fight COVID-19. Right now, the world's greatest national priority. Good morning, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder, and welcome to the morning edition. The government unveils its action plan as the Bahamas records its first COVID-19 case. In a televised address on the deadly virus last night, the Prime Minister detailed a national preparedness and response strategy. The Prime Minister stressing at the time that even as the country prepares and pray for the best, the economy will indeed feel the brunt of the impact. As Altavis Munnings tells us in this report, he also implores Bahamians and residents to be unified in responding to this global health crisis.
As government continues to monitor the country's first recorded case and global spread of the COVID-19 or coronavirus, Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis underscored in his national address on Sunday the virus's impact on the country's health sector, which includes the quarantine process.
Doctors Hospital on Blake Road has been secured as a facility to treat individuals who test positive for COVID-19. Those treating patients will utilize various protocols to protect themselves. This facility will be secured by our own defense force. No visitors will be allowed into the facility unless authorized. We are securing another facility for quarantine purposes. We have conducted training for healthcare providers on proper screening, use of protective equipment, and COVID-19 protocols, and secured adequate supplies of hand sanitizers, cleaning supplies, and protective equipment.
Then there's education.
Schools will be closed immediately until April 14th. Out of an abundance of caution, all national sporting events will be postponed until further notice. There is an indefinite suspension of all permits for use of public open spaces.
The Prime Minister revealed travel restrictions starting this Thursday, March 19th. Foreign nationals and foreign individuals who have traveled from the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Europe within the last 20 days will be prohibited entry into the Bahamas. Add to that restrictions already in place for China, Iran, Italy, and South Korea.
All Bahamian nationals and residents returning to the Bahamas through any point of entry from any of the restricted countries or an area where community infection and spread is present will be quarantined or be placed under self-isolation upon arrival and are expected to follow the protocols of the Ministry of Health. Bahamian nationals or residents returning to the Bahamas who have been abroad and believe that they may have been exposed to COVID-19 are asked to contact the Ministry of Health's hotline or their local health provider. Non-essential travel by Bahamian nationals and residents and other countries is highly discouraged. Let me repeat this. If you do not need to travel overseas at this time, I highly urge you to remain here at home.
The nation's leader also offered this advice to Bahamians and residents across the country: do not panic, as security measures will be enhanced to maintain law and order.
There is a large amount of fake news being created by people who want to scare you. Ignore them and stay informed via certified organizations and trusted and responsible news sources.
In a spirit of bipartisanship, the Prime Minister pledged to work with the opposition Progressive Liberal Party. The Prime Minister also announced that further details will be revealed about a national service of prayer that will be aired on national television. Altaviz Munnings, ZNS Network News.
Well, just to backtrack for a moment, it was shortly after 1 p.m. Sunday that the nation received the news of the first confirmed case of COVID-19 here in the Bahamas. In the face of it, health officials strongly advised of a series of measures the public should follow. Here's Jiminita Swain with that story.
The Bahamas today confirmed its first case of COVID-19 here in New Providence.
The news person suspected would only be a matter of time before the novel coronavirus made it to Bahamian shores. Acting Minister of Health, the Honorable Jeffrey Lloyd, gave these details about the victim during a live press conference Sunday.
The patient is a 61-year-old female resident of New Providence who does not have a relevant travel history. She presented with symptoms of fever and cough. She is not known to have traveled outside of the country in the past 20 days. And at this time, the patient's exposure is unknown.
Minister Lloyd said the victim's family members have been advised of the diagnosis and that she is receiving treatment in a designated isolation area of the Princess Margaret Hospital. Consultant Physician of Infectious Diseases at PMH, Dr. Nakia Forbes, gave this timeline associated with the first case.
The patient presented to the Princess Margaret late on Friday evening. She would have been tested the following morning. There are batches for testing. As soon as we had the results available, that was just after midnight tonight.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Pearl Macmillan spoke to the patient's nationality.
To my understanding, she is Bahamian. Family will be a part of our contact tracing investigation. As required, we would go ahead and do necessary testing.
When pressed on why the information was not announced sooner, this was Macmillan's response.
And I would say this: certainly you get a positive and then you retest. That's another 4 or 6 hours to confirm that that is positive, and then you may wish to do another one. And in this case, we did, I think, 2 iterations of testing to ensure that we are telling you and we are telling the patient that they are positive.
Well, the country is still ingesting that announcement as health teams conducting contact tracing to determine the origin of the first COVID-19 case here in the Bahamas. In studio with us this morning is Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Delon Brennan. Dr. Brennan, welcome back to the Morning Edition.
Thank you.
Now, just in terms of the woman who tested positive a few days back with COVID-19, tell us where is the supportive care, where we are with the supportive care for her.
Sure. So we are in the midst of making sure that we support her health as a whole. So much like with other respiratory virus issues that you don't necessarily have a direct therapy for. So you don't have like an antibiotic or an antiviral that particularly targets that virus, what you have to do is make sure that the patient stays hydrated. You give them supportive therapy such as oxygen if they need it, if they start to drop their blood level of oxygen to go along with it. And if any other complications develop, that you address those as well. Because what you really want to do is make sure that you keep her body healthy enough to be able to fight off the virus itself. So much like when we have a cold and you just take something for your fever, but you're not taking anything specifically to address the virus, your body just fights it off. The same thing happens with COVID-19 as it does with influenza. Your body kind of has to do all the work, and you have to make sure that your body is healthy enough to do so. So that's what we're doing for her right now, and we'll continue to do for others who present with similar symptoms.
What about the people who she may have come in contact with? Do we have those numbers yet? And what is being done in this case?
Sure. The issue is going to be getting a total number of people is going to be impossible. There's no way to do that because as you travel, as you might imagine, when you go from day to day, you go to a store, you come into contact with a number of people. You go to church, you get in contact with people. You go to a family event, or you go to any sort of event, church or whatever. Then what happens is you end up getting in contact with a lot of people. You shake hands, you hug, that sort of thing. But there are also people who've sat near you in a waiting room, in the vestibule. And what you find out is there's lots of people that you'll never know that you were within 6 feet of. And so what we're doing is we can find out who close contacts are, family members, close friends, even, what church you go to and do that, the tracing around that. But you'll never find out the sum total of who all, the person may have come into contact with. So it's really making sure that, yes, we address those issues. We get in contact with as many of them as possible, find out if they have symptoms, but also get them to isolate themselves. But in addition, the public health side of things is going to be the much bigger issue. We need to make sure that the public understands that there are people going around right now that not only have this particular issue, who have influenza, who have other respiratory issues, and the only way to really avoid that is to do this social distancing, is to really have people avoid close contacts with people, staying with it, outside of 3 to 6 feet, making sure if you're sick, you stay home. If other people are sick, encourage them to stay home. It's really going to take a real population size effort to get this to happen. Otherwise, we're going to get a really large spike really quickly of people who are infected with the illness.
Now, I know you said that it's going to be difficult in terms of the sum total, but how many people have health officials actually contacted so far? Can we say that?
We're well over 50, probably closer to around 50 of the close contacts that we are starting to really get a handle on who she may have come into contact with for this individual case. But again, it's really going to take a much larger effort for the population to work with us, because just focusing on the one patient isn't going to get us the type of healthcare approach to stopping this that is really required. If you see what happens in countries that do it poorly, is they really focus on just the one case. Well, we know that one case is important, but it isn't the sum total of what you need to do. Countries who do it well really start with larger size activities and really then hone in on what needs to happen. So they start, with the schools, with workplaces, with large gatherings. Ceasing all of those activities is what is really going to stop the passage, throughout the entire community.
Now, outside of the Bahamas, this past weekend, it was reported that a baby was born, the youngest victim of COVID-19, born with the virus, passed from the mother. So now it's been confirmed that it can also be transferred like this. What should expectant mothers be doing? Should they be upping their game, so to speak, in terms of prevention measures?
Yes, and we think the same things we're telling other people, but they have to have a heightened sense because they're protecting not just themselves, but they have to protect their babies. So the good hand washing, avoiding large crowds, making sure that if other people are sick, they are, doing their cough etiquette. Something that we keep telling people to do when it comes to either pregnancy or young babies is making sure that people have their requisite vaccine. So if someone's going to come visit, this happened in our household. If someone was going to come visit, if you haven't had your flu shot, you can't come over. Right? If you aren't willing to wash your hands and, use a cover-up when you're holding the baby, those sort of things, then you just aren't able to interact, because during this time, babies, older people, pregnant people tend to be those who suffer more when it comes to respiratory illnesses and the like being passed on from one person to the other. So you have to be vigilant in making sure that other people are not going to pass things on to you.
Now, a lot of emphasis is being placed on washing your hands, and a lot of people are relying really on hand sanitizers. What's the good, bad, and ugly about using these hand sanitizers, though, as opposed to thorough washing?
Right. Obviously, we advocate much more highly for soap and water because, that's tried and true. It works. It's not running out. You can find soap almost everywhere. Hand sanitizers, on the other hand, the issues around hand sanitizers are that when you really want to use them is when you haven't come into contact with bodily secretions. So whether that's, oral secretions, nasal secretions, blood, other sort of bodily fluids, the time when you use soap and water is when you come into contact with bodily fluids. Hand sanitizers work best when you may have come into dry contact or touching surfaces, but you can sort of, address that issue quickly as a convenience. But, as healthcare providers, when we come into contact with bodily fluids, soap and water is advised. And so people get comfortable with the fact if they use a hand sanitizer, they think they're fully protected. But the issue is, if you sneeze into your hand or cough into your hand or come into contact with someone else's bodily secretions, that's actually a time where healthcare providers advise that you use good old soap and water. Use it for a minimum of 20 to 30 seconds at a time in order to really rid your hands of any fluids that may have come onto them.
Now, the symptoms are the same, but what's the fundamental difference between a cold, a flu, and this here virus?
The issues around a common cold is that for the most part, most people will do very well with a common cold. You get a little bit of runny nose, you get some cough to go along with it. It is still very transmissible, but people don't do poorly with it. When you think about COVID and you think about influenza, the issues are very similar. And unfortunately, people can get really ill with either one of them. So we know that when you get fever, you get cough, you get respiratory distress, and people can end up needing hospitalization, needing oxygen therapy. They may actually need intensive care therapy as well. That can happen with both of these. And unfortunately, around the world, we're still seeing thousands, if not millions, of influenza cases. And every year, we see about 500,000 deaths worldwide due to influenza. And so far this year, we've seen in excess of 100,000 deaths already due to influenza. With COVID-19, it's brand new. There's no vaccine for it like there is for influenza. So we understand there's going to be a lot of worry and panic related to it, but that's mostly because it's new. And there's no preventative measures. And so it's going around the world and we're really worried about it. And it has the ability to affect people. And you're seeing, a significant number, let's call it about 5% of people who will have a death due to it. But you still have 95% of people who do very well or do well with it or who will recover from it. So, we have to kind of put it in context. I consider the issues around influenza as serious as I do around COVID-19. People really need to take the flu seriously. And the fact that we have a vaccine against it means that people really need to take it seriously because you can prevent yourself from getting it.
Well, thanks so much. That was Dr. DeLon Brennan with us this morning. Crucial information he's sharing with us on the COVID-19. Straight ahead in the morning edition, private and public schools closed as new measures to tackle the COVID-19 set in.
Gallery, number 3 Safri Square, Bay Street, Nassau, Bahamas.
Hi, welcome to Dream Girls. We offer a wide variety of hair care, and your everyday beauty needs.
Here at Dream Girls, we carry a wide variety of products for natural or relaxed hair, such as ORS, Care, and Shea Moisture. We also carry a large selection of weaving, braiding, and crochet hair. You can expect to find a private wig room, a large variety of products, and service with a smile. Whether you're shopping for a party, a corporate event, or your everyday working woman, Dream Girls can make your dream become a reality. Live your dream, experience your dream, Dream Girls.
We have 3 convenient locations to serve you. Village Road Shopping Center, Prince Charles Shopping Center, and Legacy Plaza located on Prince Charles next to BTC Cash and Go. Here at Dream Girls, enhancing beauty becomes your reality.
Everybody, I on TV. Look, I on TV. Mom, guess what it is? That's me. Bartender, do you see me? I on television. I gotta tell my girlfriend I on television.
Hello?
Babe, turn your television to ZNS. Quick, I'm on television.
I don't have a TV in there.
We have Wi-Fi though.
We have Wi-Fi.
That's fine. They upgrade now. You can watch it live from your phone. You just have to download the app.
All right, hold on.
Go to the App Store, type in ZNS, download the app, and you'll be able to watch ZNS straight from your phone. Hurry up and start over again.
Get your news and more anytime, anywhere with the new ZNS app. Stay connected from around the globe with our live stream news updates, all in the palm of your hand. You can also listen to the ZNS Radio Network for your favorite music. Go into your Apple or Google Play Store and download the ZNS app today.
Present check. Miss I's a star now. I still gotta pay.
The natural resources of the Bahamas play a critical role in supporting Bahamian livelihoods. For example, the fishing and tourism industry, which include fishermen, seafood exporters, hoteliers, dive operators, restaurants, and others. Collectively, they generate approximately $1.5 billion a year. Therefore, we must respect and preserve what we have. These resources belong to us.
This is my livelihood.
This is my livelihood.
This is my livelihood.
So let's all do our part to maintain our local economy and a good quality of life. Remember, if we take care of nature, nature will take care of us.
In the wake of a confirmed case, Minister of Education, the Honorable Jeffrey Lloyd, taking the decision to close all schools across the Bahamas for the next 4 weeks. In the public sector, teachers and students are not required to report to school. However, all administrators, support staff, and security personnel are to report for duty. Meantime, all staff of the Ministry of Education headquarters and various satellite offices are to report to work as usual. And all Ministry of Education staff are strongly cautioned to observe the protocols provided by the World Health Organization, as they are critical to the safety, health, and well-being of all. The University of the Bahamas not to be left behind. It's taking its own proactive steps and preventative measures to protect its faculty, staff, students, and members of the public. And this includes UB campuses, centers, and businesses here in New Providence and Grand Bahama transitioning to remote operations until further notice. Chapter 1 bookstore will also be closed until further notice. The same applies in the case of events scheduled for the remainder of the spring 2020 semester. Now, as a consequence, remote instruction and communications will begin today using online applications. Decisions to be made on Friday, March 20th regarding lab and practicum classes. Teaching practice, kitchen classes, and internships are all suspended until further notice. Students living in the dorms are advised to leave and return home immediately. Those not in a position to do so should contact the Director of Residential Life and Housing at 422-6429 and Dean of Students at 424-8559. As for administrative operations, the staff's advised to work remotely. Those who provide essential services like security, physical plant, information technology, business office will receive further instructions from their department heads. Meantime, Ambassador to the United States, His Excellency Sidney Colley, says students and employees in the Foreign Service are following the required stipulations, and he maintains that all is well at this time.
Bahamian students throughout continental United States are following protocols established by their schools, universities, and colleges. In the continental United States, the Bahamas government has about 5 regular consulates and 3 honorary consuls, one in Houston, one in Chicago, and one in LA. The regular consulates in Miami, Atlanta, Washington, and New York. The reports coming from all of them, as well as here in the mission in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, is no reported infection among Bahamian students and any of the schools and universities.
Over in Texas, the Eye on Bahamas organizations ensuring those studying in that U.S. state are safe. President of the organization, Carlisle Mott, is monitoring the situation.
We have been in touch with several of our students. Universities have moved classes to an online forum for the week of March 16th through 20th. Most of the dorms and cafeterias will remain open until further notice. The schools and universities are working closely with the CDC and will decide the course of action as things develop. They could decide to hold online classes the rest of the semester or completely shut down campus. Universities are making the decision on a case-by-case basis. Some of the students have expressed the desire to return home. In talking to them, it has been discussed that they need to be aware that when they want to return to school, they might not be able to if the U.S. restrict incoming travel to citizens and residents only.
Major cruise lines have suspended operations for the next 30 days as Corona fares leave ships docked. That change will no doubt have a huge impact on tourism, from government revenue to the day-to-day bottom line of hundreds of vendors. Here's Desmond Saunders.
The decision of major cruise lines to suspend travel to destinations like the Bahamas is news that boat operator Keith Saunders does not want to hear. His business offers cruise ship passengers one of the most exotic sea tours of the island, giving visitors a scenic view of the Bahamas. And now this local entrepreneur's daily business routine will be cut short, at least for the next 30 days. Saunders says his business will be hit hard, but finds a move necessary to safeguard and protect the country.
A situation like what's going on worldwide, they're making the best choice, even though some of us can suffer. Well, it come right back to the people who don't have nothing and who ain't had the vision to save nothing for days like this. But you got to do it to safeguard the country and the country's best interests. And I mean, a dumb person will know that's the right thing to do, you know, because we can't let everything come here and destroy us just to make $1. Then it make no sense we making the money if we ain't healthy.
On any given week, these boat operators and souvenir vendors could secure lucrative returns of between $500 and $1,000 per week. Operator of the Boat Time Tours, Levans Palmer, and souvenir vendor Vince Thompson.
You can make like $200-300 every day or $500 a day. Right now, you remember spring break, right? You can make this. Now you can't make it for the next month or two. I have my son that I can't support.
I kind of do a lot of my work at home, so a lot of work is giving me a chance to do more work at home, fine-tune whatever I need to bring out here when it picks up. But it's tough times don't last. Tough people do. You got to hold on, pray.
Sharky's, considered one of the major eateries out here in Prince George Dock. Some 34 workers expected to feel the economic hit from the deadly corona pandemic. Lead server Ann Miller is hoping locals will now patronize her establishment.
We do have tourists, which is our main industry, but we also cater to locals too. So hopefully some of the locals will still come out, you know, and we do have happy hours and karaoke nights. So even if we don't have the cruise ship coming, maybe some of the locals will still come in.
Several store vendors also speaking out, many of them just restarting their operations after a 2-week closure for renovations.
Hopefully that the market won't close, and so we'll have to rely on the hotels and make the best out of it.
The first war what they had trying to get rid of Saddam, it was worse than this. Right now you look around bit downtown and in the market, we feeling affected right now. But ain't nothing we can do. You put your trust in God.
It's a hard reality, but for scores of local tourism entrepreneurs, faith and perseverance will be the stronghold that moves them forward. Desmond Saunders, ZNS Network News.
And what impact is COVID-19 having on your worship? That and more when the morning edition returns.
The Ministry of Health is working to ensure the safety of the Bahamian people. Help us minimize the risk that coronavirus poses to citizens, residents, and visitors by following these 5 easy steps. Step 1. Wet your hands with clean water. Apply soap and lather for 20 seconds by rubbing them together. Include the top of your hands between your fingers and under your fingernails. Rinse your hands under clean water, then dry them with a paper towel or air dry them. Remember to wash your hands before and after eating, preparing a meal, changing a diaper, or caring for the sick, and always after using the bathroom, touching money, shaking hands, or taking out the trash. Step 2. Cough and sneeze in your elbow or upper sleeve, not in your hands, not in the air. Or you can cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Put your used tissue in the trash bin when you're finished. Remember to wash your hands with soap and clean water after you cough or sneeze. Also, remember never to spit on the ground, roads, or in open spaces. Step 3. Ensure that raw meat is properly handled and cooked thoroughly. Step 4. Avoid sharing drinking glasses, eating utensils like spoons and forks, or sharing personal items such as toothbrushes and towels. Germs can live on surfaces we touch, so wipe and disinfect surfaces where germs can live, and keep your surroundings clean. Step 5. Avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. Should you or anyone you know feel that you have been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the surveillance unit of the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 502-4776, 502-4790, or 502-4737. We want Bahamians and those that live with and visit us to remain safe from the coronavirus. To do this, we need the help of each and every one of you to follow the simple steps we have shared. Let's stay safe, Bahamas.
Influenza, or the flu as it is commonly called, is a viral illness that usually occurs between the months October to March. The virus is transmitted from person to person through coughing, sneezing, or talking. Symptoms include fever, cough, headache, runny nose, generalized body aches, and fatigue. There is no specific treatment for the flu, and the symptoms usually dissipate after 3 to 7 days. Because it is caused by a virus, antibiotics are not used to treat the flu. Persons are encouraged to rest and drink lots of fluids. Panadol is recommended for fever and body aches associated with the flu. However, aspirin should be avoided due to the risk of bleeding. To decrease the spread of flu, persons are encouraged to get their flu shot annually and practice good cough hygiene. Additional information can be provided by your community clinic or the Health Education Division at the Ministry of Health. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
It's the OT with yours truly, Charles Fisher.
Buddy Hield and the Kings have their...
Buddy Hield seemed to be having the best season of his career. He had 32 points the other night. It was a bit disappointing, Shawnee Miller not winning the IAAF World Female Athlete of the Year. The high school rankings will soon be out. Tabernacle, the defending champion, CC Sweeting, they are always there. Who will it be this year? Each Monday on 1540 AM and 104.5 FM, it's the OT with yours truly, Charles Fisher.
The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the regular order of worship services across the country. While some showed up for worship services on Sunday, they expressed concerns, yet remain encouraged.
As a people of faith, we need to trust God. We need to pray fervently, and we also need to participate in those things that we are being told to do. So we need to practice safe health. We need to be sensible, not foolish, not to say that I'm a Christian, I'm not going to get it. But you're not going to get it if you practice those things that you're being advised to do from health professionals and from what we have seen in other countries.
As a Christian, I feel as if Jesus, what he did, he took communion. He said, let's do this as often as we could. And he passed the cup to his disciples. So I feel as if it should be done the same way. If you take communion, the cup's supposed to be holy. And as a Christian, we're supposed to not think about these things like what you could catch. I mean, you got to be mindful of it. But as you come to church and as a Christian, that should be the last thing on your mind.
One of the bad things about it is that people, friendship-wise, meeting each other, especially in church, we do the bump, no more hugging up and this, that, the other. So it's going to change things. I mean, it has its good points, and I think it has some negative points.
From a religious point of view, on as a people, I think we need to just adhere to the laws of God, just continue praying for the nation, continue to listen to the doctors, number one, be hygienic, wash your hands and take the advice that we be giving from the healthcare workers.
Over in Abaco, COVID-19's arrival sparking much concern for residents still grappling to rebuild following Hurricane Irma's catastrophic impact there. Chief among them of food and needed supplies to help combat the virus.
Abaconians are paying attention to what's going on with regards to the coronavirus and how the world is shutting down from a virus that we cannot see. There's no panic, but there is concern about where do we go next. And they believe that they'll wait to hear what the Prime Minister has to say about the virus and whatever suggestions he would make about the virus. We are planning ourselves in addition to whatever the Prime Minister says. We're planning ourselves on how we're going to stock up on food supplies just in the event the borders are shut between the Bahamas and Florida for shipping. That's the primary concern that I'm hearing from Abaconians, that there is not enough food supply in the event that would to occur.
Well, long before a confirmed case of the illness, Bahamians were taking precautions, emptying shelves of everything from disinfectants to toiletries to food. With that angle to the story, we turn to our Catherine Gomez.
I'm trusting in God that we be all right.
As coronavirus fears increase, food stores have been flooded with citizens trying to stock up on supplies. SuperValue Assistant Manager Ricardo Stubbs says customers are preparing for the possible threat of the disease by stocking their pantries.
We have seen a great numbers in terms of customer count. We're shopping, customers are shopping. They're basically getting breadbasket items. They're getting a lot of water, a lot of alcohol, solutions, hand sanitizers. Of course, we've seen a great figure increase.
Stubbs says the stores has responded to demand, keeping their shelves stocked with the necessary items.
We're on top of the game. We have a wide volume of Lysol, alcohol, peroxide, solvents, which is good for sanitizing. We're ready. We are ready, definitely ready.
Customer Telsine Thompson says she has been stocking up on hygienic supplies, but she is also very fearful of the drastic effects the coronavirus may have on the daily routine.
Well, I'm stocking up on some sanitizers, some Lysol sprays, keeping my hands off the trolley, first of all. I feel a bit, airy about it right now, but I'm trusting in God that we be all right. But it's an airy feel. It's an airy thing about it, I'm not comfortable at this time.
Bruce Baffle, however, says he's not worried about the threat.
I'm not preparing. I don't believe in it. It's just like any regular flu, so I'm not preparing. Not even worried about it.
Though there is a chance the coronavirus can come to our shores, officials are urging Bahamians not to panic and to practice good respiratory hygiene. Catherine Gomez, ZNS Network News.
Well, at this point, we're going to take you out to the streets where our Lloyd Allen is monitoring the traffic.
The traffic report is sponsored by Bahamas First. First in insurance. Today, tomorrow.
Yes, Makushla, it's a great start to your Monday morning. This morning, we are giving you an initial look at traffic. This one coming in from School Lane and Blue Hill Road, right next to the C.R. Walker Secondary School. Now, this school, like many schools across the country, are out until about April 16th. That's because of one confirmed reported case of coronavirus here in Nassau, New Providence, Bahamas. Of course, this morning, as you can see behind me, traffic is steadily building into the downtown area, and we expect that this will increase as the morning progresses. This morning, I'm also joined by Sergeant Cressenia Johnson from the Royal Bahamas Police Force Traffic Division, giving you an initial look at weekend traffic. Good morning, Officer Johnson.
A pleasant good morning to you and a pleasant good morning, Bahamas. Over the weekend, we've had 28 accidents involving damages, 2 accidents involving minor injury, and 3 hit-and-run accidents. Unfortunately, at this time, we have 15 persons who are still hospitalized as a result of being involved in a traffic accident.
So some relatively good news there over the weekend. I also know that today, or rather this week, we expect about 5 persons to be taken to court as it relates to recent traffic incidents.
Yes, as it pertains to drivers who have been involved in accidents pertaining to driving without due care and attention and killing in the cause of dangerous driving. Yes, we expect those persons to go before the courts later on this week, so stay tuned.
So one final question I have for you. Of course, we know many schools like C.R. Walker are closed for about a month, and many students would be obviously up and about in their communities and in other areas. What advice do you offer to those parents, students, and motorists as they traverse the streets?
Well, automatically my mind goes straight to the speed limit that's designated for in towns, and that speed limit is 25 miles per hour. Keep in mind, motorists, that students are out, and we don't expect them to stay indoors the entire day. We expect them to frequent the parks or frequent the streets. So we're reminding the general public that if you are going to traverse the streets, please do so with added care and caution. As pertains to parents, please advise your kids not to play in or near the streets. Have them play in the yard where they're secured. If they're going in the park area, not too close to the streets.
So some great news there from Officer Johnson. Of course, Makushla, we are here on the streets on this great Monday morning. Reporting back to you in studio.
Well, Charles, I know this is a change for you this morning, but you'll give us the impact COVID-19 has on sports and more, I'm sure.
Yes, sports is definitely affected. No schools today, so that means the government school sports are off. School sports over there in Grand Bahama is off. Carifta athletes, they are not going swimming and track and field. Also, our NCAA athletes, they are not participating. So it's a big effect on sports, definitely with this virus out there. That's coming up in sports.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, your hottest place on the planet for rims, tints, tires, and auto sales. We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king. Blessed luck.
Make your plans now for the Agribusiness Expo 2020. Expo 2020 kicks off Friday, March 27th and continues through March 28th on the grounds of the Glassman Road Agricultural Center. Enjoy food, drinks, craftworks, and decorations, plants, produce, fish, meat, and a variety of other agricultural products from more than 80 exhibitors. There's something for everyone at the 2020 Agribusiness Expo. There's no charge to enter. It's the Agribusiness Expo 2020, Friday, March 27th and Saturday, March 28th on Glassman Road. Don't miss it.
Hepatitis is the inflammation of the liver, which is the organ responsible for filtering toxins from the body, producing bile for digestion, and producing proteins and clotting factors. The most important cause of hepatitis worldwide is viruses, of which there are 5 main types: A, B, C, D, and E. Hepatitis B and C are major health challenges globally, affecting over 300 million persons worldwide. The suspicion of hepatitis may be a challenge, as there are typically no symptoms. However, if infected, non-specific symptoms may include decreased appetite, nausea, vague abdominal discomfort, jaundice or yellow eyes, and abnormal liver function tests. If not treated, hepatitis of any type can lead to cirrhosis and liver cancer, which leads to over 1 million deaths worldwide. If you suspect you may have been exposed to the virus that causes hepatitis, talk to your doctor today and get tested.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Public Hospitals Authority in conjunction with the Medical Association of the Bahamas and the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
COVID-19 has changed the global movement of people, impacted the way business is done, and brought to the surface a new health perspective for the global community. To bring you the latest on this pandemic and our country's response, tune into the morning edition at a new time, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., beginning Monday, March 16th on the ZNS Television Network.
Good morning once again. No schools until the 14th of April. The government school sports, that is off. New Providence Primary School Track and Field Championship, they were scheduled for this weekend. That is off. The Providence Basketball Association, they were in the middle of their playoffs. That is being bounced. The Providence Women's Basketball Association, they were scheduled to start their championship Wednesday. That too has been put back. Junior Baseball League of Nassau, the latest to suspend their season. All international team travel also suspended. Bahamas Olympic Committee issuing a statement on sports. Amajal Knowles with that.
Well, all local sporting leagues have been mandated to cease play. This on the revelation of the Bahamas' first confirmed case of the COVID-19. The virus has caused a global pandemic throughout the world over the past few weeks. In a statement from the country's premier athletic body, the Bahamas Olympic Committee, it urges all federations to suspend play pending further information by the government. We hear the Dennis Toll sports team caught up with the BOC Secretary General Deron Donaldson, and he reiterated that position.
Basically, we just want to make sure that everyone's taking the necessary precaution and being safe. And at sporting events, we know everyone gathers, everyone's shaking hands, high-fiving, passing equipment. It's so many different variables. If there's a ball involved, you're passing that ball. And we just have to be so careful. And the safety of athletes, fans, spectators, coaches is priority for us. Athletes that are of course reaching out to us about what's going to happen with the Olympic game. I understand the Carifta situation. Of course, we've been in contact with the B3As and also aquatics, and it is devastating to the athletes that have trained. Maybe it's their last year and they do feel sad about it, but their safety is priority, because there'll always be another Carifta, there'll always be another meet, another sporting event to compete in, but we just want to express that everyone should take this seriously.
Donaldson also indicating that he has spoken with athletes overseas that may be in affected areas and offered them these words of advice.
Would definitely ask them to reach out to their federations, keep in contact with what's going on at home to see if they can come home. Of course, you don't want to be in a foreign land away from home, locked down. You'd rather, I'm sure, be at home. So yes, we've heard of cases where some athletes did return, some are still abroad, and we're asking them to not follow social media, but to look at the proper vetted sites, the Ministry of Health, proper reputable news stations, and not social media, because that can be dangerous. So they should know if there's a ban on how they can travel back home or not in the area of the world that they're in. So follow reputable sources, not social media.
Now, with the recent postponement of the 2020 Carifta Games, a lot is still up in the air, with several major sporting events on the calendar in 2020. But as far as the granddaddy of them all, the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, Japan, the BOC has been in correspondence with Olympic Olympic officials on the event's status, which is still several months away.
They send us an update every day, at least every working day. So Friday we would have received the last update. Nothing's changed since then. Friday they would have also, or Thursday they would have lit the Olympic flame in Olympia, Greece, but they condensed that event. Usually it's a lot of people there when they host that. That's actually the signal of the start of the road to Tokyo 2020 or any Olympic host city at that. But they too had to just really downsize the crowd. I think to 100 people, accredited guests at the most. And so you see they're taking the necessary precautions. As for the games itself, we're following their lead because, you know, they're in direct contact with the World Health Organization. Just like here, we're following the Ministry of Health's lead here. And so that's all we can do right now. It's a wait and see. It is 18 weeks out.
There is still a lot to be determined as it relates to sports, not only in the country, but around the world. Hopefully the picture becomes much clearer over the upcoming days. For Zennis Whole Sports, I'm Amajal Knowles.
Now, the International Olympic Committee has planned an emergency meeting for Tuesday morning to discuss matters for the upcoming Olympics. But joining us in studio this morning is the president of NACA. Mr. Mike Sands just recently had a conference call with those in Monaco about the Tokyo Games, but he's talking about the Carifta Track and Field Championships this morning. A quick decision last week by the NACA board and member federations.
Yes, Charles. These are unprecedented challenges for sports, as we all know. And obviously, the NACA board had to make a decision with respect to Carifta Games because Carifta Games were scheduled for the Easter weekend. And just to not keep our members in suspense, we came to a conclusion, and rightfully so, that we would suspend the Carifta Games until further notice, given the situation that the world is now facing.
What was the reaction among the member countries?
Every member federation, or 35 of them, thought it was the right decision, and so we felt very good about that because we did not want to be reactive. We decided to be proactive because at the end of the day, whether we did it or not, chances are, as they are unfolding, that countries would not send their athletes in any event. So we feel very comfortable that we took the right decision in a proactive manner.
We are seeing the domino effect. The Florida Relays is being cancelled. Jamaica Boys and Girls Champs have been cancelled. Carifta Trials have also been cancelled. So it is trickling among.
The truth of the matter is, I mean, everything is being postponed. I wouldn't say cancel, I'd say postpone, because at the end of the day, you know, this will pass at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, and then we can get back to normalcy with our lives.
Now, the big question is those meets that are in Europe for our senior athletes, also the Olympics on the horizon. What is NACA, as you're a member also of the IAAF?
Well, right now, as I said, everything pretty much is put on hold. As a matter of fact, there is another emergency conference call tomorrow with the head office in Monaco, and I'm sure this is the topic of discussion. And so the whole world have to make a readjustment to our lives. I mean, sports is no exception, and so we all have to come together and for the betterment of all our stakeholders, which is everybody in our lives.
If the Carifta Games are to be held later on this year, is it a possibility?
As I've said to the members, that, you know, once this is all said and done, we will take a look at alternative dates. And Charles, this gives us an opportunity to really revisit the scheduling of Carifta, because there's been questions a long time ago as to why was it held so early, which is the Easter weekend. And there are a number of reasons for that. Obviously, the first one is the fact that it's a common holiday throughout the region. All of the countries, you know, celebrate Easter weekend, so it did not impact very much. But then now, because we had to postpone it, it's going to give us an opportunity to take a look at where it would fit in the calendar later on in the year. I've already asked the director of competitions for NACA to take a look at some alternate days and to see where we'll have it fit. It would be good to have it at the end of regular track and field season for junior athletes. So out of this, some good will come, I'm sure.
Speaking about some good coming out of bad situation, the NCAA, they were just finished with the indoor track and field season, getting ready to start the outdoor track and field season. Our athletes were gearing up. Now we're hearing that the NCAA might give them another year of eligibility.
I think that's one of the better decisions NCAA have made in its recent history, to not deny the athletes an opportunity to have another year of eligibility. As you know, you normally have 5 years to complete 4 years in any event, and so those athletes that may have a little injury or otherwise, or were just reaching their peak, would now have another year to be able to perform and take advantage of their opportunity and their educational opportunity as well.
When was the last time the Carifta Games was not held?
Not here or not held?
Not held.
The Carifta game has always been held. I think in the late 70s,
there was a deliberate decision to move the games later on, which I think was somewhere in May or June, simply because at the end of the day, and this was specifically in Barbados as a matter of fact, because the hotel rates were very, very expensive, and Mr. Austin Seeley and his crew took a decision to have this discussion, and member federations were made aware of it, I think a year and a half prior to, so it was not something that happened haphazardly. So this, that was deliberate. So this is the first time that the Carifta Games would have been postponed unexpectedly.
And finally, you're president of NACA. That entails a lot of traveling. I notice now that you're doing a lot of conference calls. Is that now the plan?
Well, certainly this situation warrants that, but I will tell you, we had our first Zoom conference meeting with the membership, all executives, and that was a 3-hour meeting that we had on with Zoom, and so that worked out very, very well, and also you can imagine how cost effective it was. So we'll be looking towards doing more of that kind of stuff as that years goes by.
Any encouraging words you want to tell the athletes? Keep training, stay focused.
Yeah, I'd say like my mother used to tell us when we were small. She said when hurricanes were coming, and of course, you know, you heard that every year, you prepare for the worst, but you pray and hope for the best.
Mike Sands joining us this morning on the morning edition. Once again, the Carifta Track and Field Championship may be held earlier this year. That is not confirmation, but you'll have to stay with ZNet Toll Sports. We'll be the first to break it to you. Once again, the International Olympic Committee having an emergency meeting on Tuesday. From there, we should get a clear understanding, as many of the athletes around the world are not getting into the qualification round, so they'll be looking to see what happens with that. And that's going to do it for sports. Thanks for watching, everybody. The morning edition returns right after this break.
We play just like your kids. We text just like your kids. We learn. We even cook. We take selfies. We have hobbies. And we love sports. In every way, we are just like everyone else and enjoy the same things and live our lives every day, just like you do. So if you happen to meet us, treat us just like everyone else. Because at the end of the day, we're just like you. Living life with Down syndrome is simply living. To learn more about Down syndrome, call 727-2105. This message is brought to you by the Grand Bahama Down Syndrome Society.
Hey y'all, what's up?
Hey, what's that?
What y'all getting?
Listen, I've been waiting to march down some laws here.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I will be you guys waiter today. Can I take your order?
Oh, I've been jonesing for some grouper tread.
Y'all see this?
See, this ain't gonna work.
Where the fish gone, though?
But how, though?
Don't leave our children with no fish in their future. Protect our sea. Protect our way of life. Protect the Bahamas. To learn how you can help, find us on Facebook at Bahamas Protected. See the future.
Well, it's time to take a look at what's happening weather-wise, and outside of our studios, we have partly sunny skies, temperature at 72 degrees, a relative humidity at 82%, the barometric pressure 1,021.8 millibars is 30.18 inches, and it is steady. Temperatures around the islands this morning, 72 degrees in Marshall, Barbacoa, 66 in Green Turkey and Freeport, the Berry Islands at 73, 74 in Alistown, Bimini, Harbour Island at 73, also Rock, Sandy, Lutra reporting 73 degrees, also Alistown, Market Island, Stanley Key, Kemps Bay, and Fresh Creek in Central Islanders at the 73-degree mark. And as we take you into Rum Key, they also have 73, 74 in Ragged Island, Clarencetown, Long Island, Crooked Island, Betsy Bay, Maguana 76, 76 in Acklands, Mattytown, Nagwood 74, and the Turks and Caicos Islands at 75 degrees. And if you're flying out this morning, we'll hear some high-low temperatures you're likely to find at some of your favorite cities. That's going to do it for your travel forecast. Now for your boating forecast for today in the Northwestern Islands. Northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Wave heights, they're going to be around 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Low tide 8:38 this morning. High tide at 2:30 this afternoon. In the central and southeastern islands, northeast winds a little stronger at 12 to 18 knots. Wave heights 3 to 6 feet. So caution flags up for boaters in the central and southeastern Bahamas. And going to our satellite picture, high pressure remains in control, but there's a little ribbon of clouds approaching the extreme northwest Bahamas, which could bring 1 or 2 brief showers to the North Abaco and Grand Bahama areas later on today. Our forecast calls for mostly sunny and warm conditions. High temperature today should get up to 80 degrees tonight. We're looking at a beautiful night with just a few clouds and pretty nice temperatures, 71 degrees for your low temperature. And the extended weather forecast over the next 7 days, lots of sunshine during the daytime, temperatures in the 80s right through, and it seems as though this is going to carry us right through the weekend, so we have a beautiful week shaping up weather-wise for you.
Well, that does it for our morning edition. We invite you to join us for a rebroadcast of the Prime Minister's National Address next at 9 o'clock. Make it a safe and wonderful day.